Hello and welcome to the AEW Dynamite preview. I'm Michael Sidgwick, joined by Michael Hamflett to discuss everything that's in store for us on tonight's show. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure to subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, where we discuss, preview, and review AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, WWE Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. Pay-per-views, premium live events. We have wrestler interviews on occasion, roundtable discussions. We answer your questions some weeks, and we host a roundup of the week complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. Now, Hamflett, before I give your general, are you looking forward to this Dynamite sort of take before we go segment by advertised segment? We should note that we are actually recording this from the past. We're recording it on a Tuesday because Hamflett is, stunningly enough, he's not in tomorrow. Yep. So, if anything else...
we couldn't work out doing an NXT review in my absence. Funny.
So, he's absent as well, Adam Wilborn.
He's fine with listening to this one, I think.
Yeah. So, we are recording this on Tuesday. Ergo, if anything gets added to the show, we literally can't preview it as part of this preview. But there's a recent trend emerging of AEW actually getting its crap together and, you know, really in advance advertising stuff, letting people know who might come to the building late. The walk-up crowd, here's what's on the show.
Yeah.
And I think more than anything, to be honest, right, this is a total tangent. I wasn't the biggest fan of them announcing everything when I knew or when I'd heard or it had been reported and filtered through that, you know, their stuff was tight. There was long-term planning. I honestly thought it got a little bit predictable. You could tell, all right, if this wrestler is going to return, it's going to be in this segment, or more to the point, if wrestler on hiatus was going to return as not, I can tell by the format and how it usually plays on Dynamite that there's no space for them to do so. Yeah. It lacked that unpredictable sort of energy of anything can happen here in AEW. But I will say, conversely, now that AEW's gotten incredibly chaotic with its booking, uneven, just poor planning, no planning whatsoever. I mean, to use a very recent example, Private Party doing a job in July, I think it was, to MXM Collection, only two months later, vie for the tag team titles. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't suggest that there's been a big plan put in place for them. So it's kind of like reverse now, where I actually appreciate knowing what's on the card, not just tonight, but there's been a lot of stuff advertised in advance for Friday Night Dynamite. I actually welcome it now. It's reassuring to know that there's actually a bit of direction happening. But yeah, that's a bit of a tangent. What are your thoughts overall on this week's show?
Do you think not advertising stuff was partly to do with the seemingly more chaotic nature within AEW's like creative engine room? Or was it like a little bit of an overcorrection to the era when everybody would, and like reasonably so, kind of rip the piss out of the Excalibur auctioneer rundown? Like, that was a sign that they had at least the next week's worth of shows taken care of, but it was very busy and chaotic in its own way. It was like organized chaos.
Created.
Yeah, it was like organized chaos rather than the kind of chaos that we've seen since. And it was like, all right, and sod you can't have your matches. Instead, we'll get nothing. And that was probably a step way too far. These things should always be balanced. You want a semblance of a card, but as you say, for unpredictability, for the sense of surprise, and the idea that
give us 4 matches.
Yeah, there's enough fixtures to theoretically justify this 2 hours, but what if something should occur? That's kind of what you want. They've potentially acknowledged a problem here. There are lots of reasons why AEW are not drawing big houses, but a very, very justifiable complaint is you have this big roster and you could be days away from that show in your town and not know who from that big roster you're going to get. Like, so this is an attempt to now correct that bit. You're never going to not... What am I trying to say here? You know, what's that like Chaplin sort of thing where like he pushes down on one thing and then another thing comes up? That's kind of where AEW is at the moment. Whack-a-mole.
I mean, that's not the Chaplin thing, but it's another thing.
Like
it's another thing.
He whacks a mole of who's wrestling, and then there's still going to be another mole that pops over here about things you need to fix. There are a lot of moles that need a whacking in AEW, but this is a worthwhile mole to whack.
Indeed.
It is like the one example for me, and we've lived this once. We've had the privilege of attending a Dynamite in America, not even the Cardiff, Wales one. And we were allowed to speculate that maybe Kenny Omega would be there because he was working the pay-per-view on Sunday. But he wasn't there. And it would have been like, it'd be nice if Kenny Omega was here. He's on your roster and he's fit and healthy.
Yeah.
And they've had this massive roster, and it now makes it like it was like Adam Cole returned. Nobody would have known that going into Wednesday because it was a pay-per-view surprise. But then MJF wasn't on the show. You know, he wasn't there in person. He was just on screen. It does do something to that like live experience of I didn't get them. I didn't get them. I got them, but I didn't get them.
It's a problem with it. It's basically AEW has given its fan base just weekly choice paralysis. You know what I mean? Of like, oh well, I want him to be the TNT champion. No, I want that one to be the TNT champion. No, I want to see that person live. You've got them. Why can't I see them? Sort of thing. It's a lot of it is rooted in that really greedy recruitment strategy. But no, they do seem to have their stuff together. If anything gets added, we are recording this on Tuesday. Another point to make. Yeah, I understand your point about that. The Excalibur thing, particularly on pay-per-view weeks, on pay-per-view go-home shows, it was ridiculous. Yeah. Absolutely. It was pointless. Like, just do it. Just cut 2 minutes from the matches that you can't remember and let them just breathe. Let them build the matches, talk about it. Collision, I don't think helped. That because the way the Collision works now that it's become Dark Elevation is that, you know, if Kyle Fletcher, if you advertise like Kyle Fletcher speaks and addresses his actions on, say, that's one of the talking points. It's just in front of me on the Excalibur rundown, and then, you know, he's working a match on Collision, it becomes even more obvious that he's going to win. There's probably better examples, but you know what I mean? Like, on Collision, a lot of the Collision matches function in the old Dark Elevation way of, let's give someone a win to theoretically give them form or momentum ahead of the match on Dynamite. It just, I don't know. Collision has spoiled a lot of things, but we're not talking about Collision or bitching about that. We're bitching instead about Dynamite, or talking about it rather. And let's go. What are your thoughts on this card before we go bit by bit?
It's got stuff on it, and I know that doesn't sound particularly exciting.
It's got some stuff on it, hasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. They can, I don't want to say get away with it, because that's not fair. This might be booking, they might be making choices. They have the potential here, I think, to use some of the angles they're promoting, or the inaction, you know, the kind of like the stuff that aren't the announced matches, to make this Dynamite quite memorable, or be quite a big part of the ongoing ginormous BCC Jon Moxley angle. The actual advertised matches, it's all right. It's all right, but I don't know. It's maybe not the worst thing to have low to medium expectations, because then you stand a chance of being sort of pleasantly surprised. Yeah, we went in depth in a podcast. I think time is going to be very kind to you, that I was quite proud of when we finished recording, which was our Collision review. Wouldn't say this very often, where we sort of sat and realised inadvertently it wasn't a planned bit. It wasn't a bit, but with every passing match,
we don't do bits.
No, that's not our kind of thing. With every passing match, we realised that like Jon Moxley should have a say.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like it was something that kind of helped us sort of draw a conclusion about the Jon Moxley story and
how tricky, untenable it might be.
Maybe.
Tricky or untenable, depends.
But I kind of want to watch that continue to play out, to see if AEW, I want to watch AEW work with it.
Yeah.
And see what they can make good and, bad out with that. So
indeed. Well, let's go segment by segment. As announced on Twitter, the various channels. Again, we are recording this on Tuesday. Something else might get added, but I'm looking at this and thinking, I can't see much more getting added. Shelton Benjamin, my new favorite wrestler, who had an absolutely awesome, literally awe-inspiring, because of just how much of a reinvented animal he looked in that ring against Lio Rush, is back in action. He's going to beat Sami Guevara.
Yes.
Because Shelton Benjamin is going to have a match against Swerve Strickland on Friday Night Dynamite, which is in 8 days. So I can't press the button, I'm afraid. 8 days. Doesn't have the same ring to it. So he's probably going to beat Sami Guevara. He's almost certainly going to beat Sami Guevara. But as I said last week, I think it's genuinely about time that AEW introduced someone who's destined to eventually eat the pins in a stable initially is a killer in their own right. So I really like the fact that they're making a big deal of Shelton because, oh my God, when Lashley comes in, he's gonna kick even more ass than Shelton Benjamin. And Shelton Benjamin's not even like the big bad of the presumed Hurt Syndicate stable. So he's gonna wrestle Sami Guevara. An interesting note on this, potentially more interesting than the matchmaking realistically, is two things. They're going surely to Shelton Benjamin is going to be the kicker rather than the kicky of that famous Shelton Benjamin Shawn Michaels super kick spot. I would like it to not just be a flying nothing. I mentioned this on the Collision review. What I would like to see instead is Sami Guevara attempting, I don't know, a springboard drop kick or a springboard crossbody and then going to the well once too often as opposed to just suddenly doing... The ends will justify the means. They'll get the GIF. They'll get the engagement. They'll get those the parallel screenshots and double GIF expos. They'll get what they're after. I just hope there's a little bit of craft and thought put behind it, but whatever. It'll be awesome if and when it happens. This is not the second point I was going to make, but we've just realized the folly of potentially booking a match around one spot on NXT 2 weeks ago when Randy Orton and Javon Evans ended in farce when as soon as that match was announced, a similar deal here, well, you're going to get the super kick just in reverse. When Javon Evans versus Randy Orton was announced on NXT, we all fantasy booked, what's the catch RKO out of nowhere going to look like? And spoiler alert, it did not look good at all. It was botched out the ears. So there is a bit of a, might be a little bit foolish to book around a match around one spot. Anyway, the point I was also going to make, before I get your general thoughts on the match, was Dave Meltzer, and I don't necessarily agree with this, but at the same time kind of get where he's coming from, liken this match in that it's a AEW stalwart about whom decent things might be reasonably expected versus just a pretty old WWE guy coming in to beat him. And he likened it to Christopher Daniels doing a job to Val Venus.
Yep.
I think that's very harsh. And as people have pointed out, Christopher Daniels had headlined the previous two. I think Garrett Kidney mentioned this. He's the king of all things TNA. Had mentioned that, Christopher Daniels was way, way, way more pushed than Sami Guevara. It did very much feel way more like a death of a dream sort of scenario of the entire thing's just completely bollocks if you can't even believe in Christopher Daniels. But and Sami Guevara is absolutely not anywhere near where even Christopher Daniels was in TNA in 2010. But it's interesting, and maybe it's indicative of the ex-WWE guy coming in problem.
Yeah, it was a bad example of a good point.
Yes.
I didn't want to piss on anyone's chips last week, least of all yours, but no one's going to have a toss-pat shot on Benjamin in 3 months. And I don't mean that.
I get it.
It's not... I don't want to be the grand irony of last week was what it did was after years and years of a bunch of people who I really like to see the notes on this telling you that Shelton Benjamin was great lost opportunity. A match was...
I never bought that.
No. Yeah, I'm not saying you were one of them.
He is my new favorite wrestler.
A match took place.
Earnestly.
A match took place in which a lot of people were after the fact being man, Shelton Benjamin's going to get this great opportunity, and then might have been so good and impressive, and this one tonight might as well, that a bunch of people in 6 months when he's been completely normalised and is ordinary again, are going to be like, damn, I sure missed the boat with that Shelton Benjamin. It is happening again, right? Because there would be nights like...
It's been happening since, 2005?
Yep.
19 years.
There would be nights like the time he defeated Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental title, or the nights like the Odd Great World's Greatest Tag Team, sort of SmackDown 6 sequel era. They tried to usher in with Eddie Guerrero and Tajiri and the like. But Shelton Benjamin's good.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in that at all, by the way. But your point is the right one. He exists to almost fool you into thinking this is the serious threat of the Hurt Syndicate because the serious threat comes in, and why not build him as such?
Yeah.
For nothing else other than the Swerve Strickland match, which they've got on this Dynamite, absolutely fine. So yeah, I kind of don't...
I think they're doing the right things. I don't disagree with your take fundamentally.
Yeah.
And I say
But I certainly don't think it's Val Venus, but I think Dave Meltzer's onto something. he had a gazillion other examples that he could have picked from, and he picked a pretty duffer one. I think.
Yeah, I just think that Sami Guevara, we've seen him peak.
Yeah, and that's the other thing as well. Like Sami Guevara is not. He's not a Christopher Daniels.
He's like AEW Shelton.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And I think that's
like,
the
there's
issue.
no shame in being a really sort of memorable and well-liked mid-carder. There just isn't any shame in that whatsoever. So yeah, I broadly disagree with that point. I just thought it was interesting to touch on, because sometimes discussions, there's a lot of stuff on X, Twitter, that I read that's like, I don't like engaging with it. I don't even like people talking about how we shouldn't engage with it. That's still engaging with it, and I'm doing it now, and I hate myself a little bit.
When people try and be the managing director of Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, God, it really annoys me. That really pisses me off. That
Sami Guevara is one of many that should be benefiting from the fluidity of pro wrestling rosters now that there's two mainstream places to work.
Yeah.
Like, and there's nobody should feel any sort of shame in their run coming to like a natural conclusion where a refresh is sort of perfect.
Yeah.
I think there will be debate, pending how well Daniel Garcia's next year and a half goes. I think there will be perfectly reasonable debate about, did he make the right call staying with AEW, or should he have gone to WWE? Likewise, as Ricky Starks is kind of like absent from television, the questions will be, he's got to go to WWE. The Lucha Brothers are staying put for the time being in AEW, but I look at a guy like Rey Fenix, but with anybody actually saying, no, please stay. Like, if you watch both
there
companies,
are people, and they're not many, look at the gates, look at the houses, but there are proper diehards who are still fighting for this title.
I just think, like, we're 5 years into AEW now, which is possibly why that they persist with like fighting for the soul of AEW as brand stories. But for the wrestlers themselves who do this for a job and make a living, jump about like and Sami Guevara going to WWE might.
Sami Guevara will jump about. Don't worry about that.
Like fresh coats of paint go a long, long way, and it might like he's not going to get one sticking around in AEW. So until he leaves,
there's no hierarchy through which to ascend, even if he did get over and catch fire again, which seems like a remote possibility. One more thing on Sami Guevara, just before we switch gears into the next segment.
The super kick was like one of the most famous AEW spots.
It was awesome.
Not just a Shelton Sean thing.
That happening? February 2020.
Yeah, if you're going to do side-by-side gifts, do that one, not the Sean Shelton one. Yeah. You know? We'll do all three.
Yeah, all three. Triple your money, triple your fun. One thing on Shelton Benjamin, Sami Guevara, I don't know if I don't feel a little bit sorry for him. Sami Guevara, it's that mid-card shame thing.
You suggesting he should be given a chance?
It's that mid-card shame thing. But I think it's especially pronounced in AEW, where Guevara comes in and he's a proper featured player when that company's just on fire creatively. He's like, I reckon people probably wanted Eddie Kingston to beat Miro more, but it wasn't a big disgrace that Guevara, after the Inner Circle had disbanded, people wanted to get behind him and thought, you know what, you've done what really draws the respect of wrestling fans. You've got in a stable. You have really been entertaining. You've put your body through hell to get to this position. You're part of some iconic moments in the lore. And this company felt like, this is a company that promoted Cody versus Dustin. They promoted something nothing short of seminal on its first pay-per-view, you know? And because that's the standard, and because that standard persisted with some few rough patches for 2019 to 2021, and he's a big part of it, you just think, all right, he's a can't-fail prospect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just a lot. And then he got canonized as a pillar, which I still maintain, it's my wrestling hot take, was a good idea in the wake of Punk and Danielson. It's like, no, we've got people who have been here since day one that we're still wanting to get behind. I just feel like an enormous set of expectations have been placed on him. And I don't know if I don't feel a little bit of sympathy for him.
I have a certain sympathy for him, and
it was almost like he was fated to succeed in this big long-term, I think in 100 years into the future, guys, narrative that was AEW, you know?
I've not noticed it as much with Sami Guevara, but I feel sympathy even as we kind of criticize or critically analyze his work. I sort of feel a similar sympathy for Jack Perry.
Same.
But I too would have done the pillar thing, because the idea is that the pillars create the building, everybody works in the building, then you have some new pillars.
Yeah.
Like if it's functioning effectively and all four of them had worked, then nobody would criticize it. And actually what would happen is you would then have that. Like remember by 2021, it looked like, you know what, all the pillars are going to come good. It might come good at different times, but they're going to come good. And then as you point out, you got your Punk and your
What a luxury that would have been if it had worked.
Yeah. You know, your Punk, Brian Omega tier of star, then you got your pillars. And then people started talking about the 4 killers.
Yeah.
And it was Yuta and Garcia and I can't remember.
I can't remember who
the idea was. It was like people were already fantasy booking the next rung down. And there's no shame in that whatsoever.
Yeah.
And not everybody succeeds in that like sort of methodology. But that's...
I could understand totally why they went for that. Can you imagine if it all panned out and it got over? The luxury you would have of like, oh my God, they're separating the narrative now. But what if Sami Guevara and Jack Perry at Revolution 2026, that gets back on track, you know? They could have told, I mean, the same...
Jack Perry and MJF.
Yeah.
We used to fantasy book how they wrestled now, they go again there, and they go again there. And like,
I think I'll never criticize a company for having real ambition and flair with that booking. I just think it was so ambitious that I almost feel sorry for Sami Guevara for just simply being a really entertaining mid-carder on his day, because there's no shame in it.
And again, they've made themselves 10 times more valuable through being like even moderately successful TV wrestling stars. Yeah. They've made themselves 10 times more valuable to WWE. There's proof for that already. The kind of contracts get thrown around to go and try it somewhere else. Yeah. Like at WWE in 2019, looking at Jack Perry or Sami Guevara, like only if Triple H or William Regal have been given that specific DVD that week, they don't stand a chance otherwise. You know? Ethan Page like has got this run because of like a solid to good run in AEW. There will be other places to work with this, like, I don't know if you could call it aura, but this appeal they've built up is not wasted. Yeah, it's just now starting to feel wasted in AEW.
Yeah, it just feels like for a huge variety of reasons, like particularly like the ceiling that gets lowered on these younger guys and how much TV time is gobbled up by certain other wrestlers that there's just no real path forward for them. Chris Jericho challenges for the Ring of Honor world title in a ladder war against Mark Briscoe tonight. You know what? I'm going to do a generous spin on this. This is like, I don't know, I'm feeling a certain kind of way. It's about 3 years ago or something.
Sidgwick's generous spin. What's the bit for the seg?
With there.
Nobody always have coins. Nobody has coins anymore. You got coins.
I sure do. Sidgwick's generous spin. It's more a flip.
You do the spin. Just spin the coin.
Sidgwick's generous spin. There we go. Very generous, very long. Long time and a good time. I think that...
As we said at the start of this podcast, we don't do bits.
We don't really do bits. Yes. My generous spin. You know what I'm sick of?
What?
I'm sick of ladder matches.
Yeah.
Do you think that... The way I put that sentence across and the intonation made you think there was a second part? No, there is. I'm sick of ladder matches. And I'm sick of ladder matches that are just, you know... Do something off the top of the rungs. Yeah. You know, do a flip off it. Build the match around what high spots you're going to do with the ladder. Guess what? Chris Jericho can't do high spots no more. Really. So he's going to have to get creative and brutal with this. And no one ever talks about this. But Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels had a quite incredible ladder match that was so great and it stood out and was so refreshing in contrast to what they had already become like 12 years ago. And they've never really evolved since. That was
was in 2008 and the WWE roster was stacked.
It was stacked. But that was genuinely a really ugly... It was still creative, but in less really ostentatious ways. I think Chris Jericho could have a really good ladder match with Mark Briscoe. I think the beauty with glomming onto Mark Briscoe is that people care about Mark Briscoe and then people, by extension, care about everything he's in. So I think Chris Jericho's... He selects his own opponents, let's face it, or seems to. I think he's played a blinder here. Played a blinder by being programmed with Mark Briscoe and this Fued. No, I don't really do that many bits. And because of his advancing years and the fact that he's not going to wrestle a ladder match in much the same way as younger, more dynamic, like really great high flyers. Like this could be ugly. This could be violent. This could restore what it means to actually have such a pretty horrific weapon. Jon Moxley will do Texas Deaths, Lights Out. He'll put those goddamn, what they called, that he put in his head in the first Wembley. Skewers in his head. He hates ladder matches. He absolutely hates ladder matches because they are horrible to work through. I think Copeland refuses to do another one because, look what they did to his body. They're meant to feel like they suck. I think Chris Jericho's going to have a really good one. I've just got a feeling. I think he's going to win as well.
Yeah, me too. Maybe this is what divides us here, because you quite like the Wrestle Dream match, didn't you? And
I thought it was good, yeah.
And that's, again, as you've said, Mark Briscoe, you care about.
I just care about whatever he does. Yeah. I love him. It's one of the few people I actually care about.
That is Jericho getting what he wants out of this, isn't it? Which is a bit of Briscoe dust on his stale, tired act. Unfortunately for me, a bit of Jericho dust got on Mark Briscoe. Went the other way, and I was really detached.
And they went to the USA.
Yeah, and I worry about them bumping off a ladder or doing something that just really hurts for that emotion of I don't care about this and I don't care about the title you're defending. And a little bit of me is, Mark Briscoe might lose upwards from this, because without that Ring of Honor title, considering he's been an AEW regular for the last 6 months now anyway, and the conglomeration's gotten over, that's him in this. That's him probably being more channeled towards joining up with Orange Cassidy and doing something about Jon Moxley. Terrific. Yeah. Mark Briscoe's perfect for this Jon Moxley story as a babyface. Mm-hmm. So you get him out of that. Tremendous. Jericho, if I could believe for a second he was going to take that Ring of Honor title, shock, to Ring of Honor, I might be more supportive of it, but obviously it's not. It would just be that belt staying on Dynamite with Chris Jericho instead. Big Bill probably puts him on his shoulders and climbs up the ladder like Rhino did with Christian all those years ago. That's how he wins or something. Conglomeration come out, Learning Tree come out, Big Bill hoists Jericho up there, he gets it done. I just don't care. I can't pretend to. It's the Ring of Honor title, it's Chris Jericho. Saw something that shook me to my core about Chris Jericho earlier today, which is that his contract is up in 2025 and conversations have yet to be had. And it's that's not what I want to read about Chris Jericho. You want to read that Carney is yet again stuck on an extra couple of year skis. What was that locker room leader clause him and Mox got when Punk left in 2020, whatever it was. It will be the big match. There will be. You need a couple of damn men, Tony.
2002 Triple H and Undertaker vibes.
Yeah. We'll clear this up. I wanted to read that. But the idea that he is going to play this wrestling war off that he can benefit makes me sick to my stomach, GR.
Makes me sick to my stomach, GR. Chris Jericho and the Fed.
The only benefit
would be automatically goated because it's the Fed.
Quite the opposite, sir. The only benefit is that he would be being booked by Triple H, somebody that he constantly cut his legs off. Chris doing 100 jobs, mate.
I tell you what. I don't really care about...
Triple H didn't want to do the Festival of Friendship. He hates Chris Jericho that much.
Yeah. I don't think, weirdly, considering we're Silver Vision pilled guys who grew up on 1989 to 1990 WWF and went forward and back, and basically we're talking about balloons for biceps and that the sheen, the sheer sheen. We're not big on getting the shape fatty. We're not that kind of podcasters. No. I don't like to think. I would think that if Chris Jericho, whose physique and how great it looks has fluctuated in AEW. I mean, it's part of the business. You kind of got to talk about it. I just want Chris Jericho to go to WWE. One, so he's not in AEW, which I like more. Mm-hmm. I want to see what that physique looks like.
Yeah.
More to the point, I want to see what someone that old looks like in WWE, because I don't really go that old. Sheamus just has always looked like Sheamus, right?
Yeah. It's the age you're supposed to be fooled by. I saw that brilliant thing that they're doing the rounds after the Motor City Machine Guns debut, that they are older. Then there's two references here. So there's one for different age groups. The one that is very, very us, right? That viewers our age might appreciate. The Guns debuting on SmackDown are older than when the Rock and Roll Express rocked up in '93.
I mean, that's outrageous.
That's incredible. The Motor City Machine Guns today are older than approximately half of the gimmick Battle Royal field were at WrestleMania 17. I'll be a heater out on that one.
Jesus Christ.
Because it's changed, right? Is what I'm saying. It's wrestlers.
But does anyone look as old as Jericho on WWE's roster right now?
It would be Triple H, wouldn't it? When he comes out, he looks a bit grizzled and battle-worn, and it would be.
I reckon he'd look like... Remember when he had the health scare, Jericho?
Yeah.
Ahead of Revolution 2022, in the Kingston feud. He's like, Jesus Christ, he looks 5 years younger again.
I am fascinated by the backstage
he looked like that
battle
again.
between Jericho and Punk. Maybe I want that.
Yeah.
The stories of how them two work together within a WWE system is fascinating. But like,
Aye.
not many. Yeah, I can't visualize too many wrestlers that. Again, we're not age shaming him or anything like that. It's just I
look like crap compared to him, and I'm
he's
15 years younger than him.
Does those mirror selfies and he's got abs and that, and it's like he'd get them back straight away, wouldn't he?
Oh, yeah. One more thing on Jericho is like it's almost that WWE thing, right? Where it's a lot of the smart marks are like, Chris Jericho's ruining everything. Look at some of his quarter hours. Are like, oh, that's why I put him on. That's why I put him on. It's that, oh God, who wants Goldberg? Ugh. And then you see the numbers he pulls in. It's like, oh, right, obviously people who aren't you or in that bubble want Goldberg. But there's a case to be had of shifting on your best player. It happens in football. It's happening in wrestling all the time. Like just before they completely outlive their usefulness. And all
like Alex Ferguson was brilliant.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's what came into my head when I said that.
I remember him getting rid of Kanchelskis and thinking, how can you do that?
Yeah.
You just cost yourself the league, mate.
Yeah.
And then that was I've got 10 new kids that are going to be better than all your faves, and they won the league.
Like it'll be like subtract, like you know what I mean, addition by subtraction. I genuinely think like he needs to. It's over. It's so over for Chris Jericho that the last time Tony Khan made a move that was potentially going to really, really piss off people he worked alongside very, very closely was when he disbanded the original booking committee, and look what happened on the back of that.
Yeah.
February 2020 happened on the back of that. Warning! Mox is here. AEW's got a rich history with...
You can advertise this for all of 2023.
That's what, I'm not being funny. That's what it says on the
graphic. I know it would have been a shoot in 2023, though.
Yeah. Oh, God, Mox is here.
God, Mox is here.
God, he's dead. He's
wow,
thank. Oh, sure. God, son.
It's good, this stuff they're doing. Like,
it's all right. It's all right. It's flawed. It's well executed, but it's flawed. This is in that long, rich history of AEW in the match graphics of Eddie Kingston addresses his enemies, MJS rebar mitzvah. Going for that, it's like got the road sign, and it's literally the graphic is warning, Mox is here. Maybe it's a bit lame. I don't know. Like you can't. Yeah, it is lame, isn't it? You cannot really advertise that your company's completely going to get screwed. Well, it's going to be great. The whole company's going to get... it's going to be great. The whole company's going to get lit on fire, which is it's going to be really great for us. All my guys are going to get injured. It's going to be great for us.
What does
Moxley do tonight?
Can I claim suspension of disbelief a little bit on that one? Like, is this not you got to do a bit... You got to lean in a little bit. Wrestling is wrestling.
Oh, God, I'm being a dick, man.
No, I'm just... You know, I liked that the Blackpool Combat Club... whatever, Moxley's group, that they didn't take it as seriously, but they still took Collision seriously. I am trying to buy this group exactly as much currently as AEW is selling it. Maybe that's my rule on this one. I'll buy this as much as you choose to sell it. As soon as AEW gave up selling me that the Elite were trying to take control,
I lost all interest, yeah.
And I think that's the rule I'm going to adopt here with this Moxley stable, because we could like talk ourselves in circles and do hours on why these things tend not to work as easily as people believe they would. It's why e-fedders do them, but wrestling promoters tend not to, even though there's been like one objective success story, there's been countless more failures.
Yeah.
But as of right now...
It's just a little dickhead way of saying Tony Khan's just a little e-fedder.
Well, he was, but like...
Still is.
What did he call his show?
Kind of still is.
What did he call his show? Dynamite, and he got to put his e-fed on the telly. And like, there's been lots of great memories off of the back of that. However...
we call him Tiny Con next.
What I'm saying about this story, because it was an e-fedder's favourite, this wasn't it? We're taking over the whole company.
Yeah.
Message board post, 6 wrestlers all suddenly get together. I just think right now, because Mox is the world champion, because there is an obvious immediate babyface in Orange Cassidy, and obvious like medium to long-term babyfaces in Garcia and Darby Allin, and we're talking about, I was fantasy booking and Danny Garcia heel turn to join this group. They've got me at least enough interested to like project stuff onto the wrestlers. Yeah. There's more. Collision made me realize there are actually people on this roster I suddenly care about again. So something has worked here. I don't know if it's working as well as Jon Moxley believes it does, and is when he's like doing his cool ass video packages from the back of his van.
And they are really cool.
He uses this language in a way that like really paints pictures. So I love him for that. It's not as cool as he thinks it is yet as an overall vibe.
No.
But I'll be willing to stick with them as they try and try and invigorate a whole show. It's a big, set himself a big goal here. You know what I mean? If this falls short within 6 weeks, that's completely on Jon Moxley.
And it's even worse if we're going to save the company or didn't save the company.
Yeah. Like that's...
You have to get...
He has to own that then, doesn't he? That he has to own that failure.
You have to get a lot of people who have either peaked or aren't going to get over. That's the end game isn't to like have some people win matches. The end game is to get people who aren't over, who might have peaked, who might not even have a peak in them, over is nothing less than saviors of the promotion and to bring the houses back and the good times and the vibe back. It's massively ambitious. What does he do tonight?
Well, could we fold this into another graphic? Because the House of Black are in action and they were...
we totally had some fun on Collision.
We did have some fun on Collision, but we were told repeatedly that the House of Black are now the winningest trio in AEW history, thanks to another victory over 3 very game opponents, who I can't even remember the names of and will never think of again, on the same night that the BCC main evented with that kind of kick-ass new finisher deal they've got. They're the best they've ever been as a trio, are Pac and Yuta and Claudio, and now the House of Black are...
formed in August, but I understand what you're saying. The best of BCC brackets general have looked as a trio.
Yeah, definitely. And now the House of Black want the belts. And if you want the belts, it means that you've got to take on the evil Moxley. Like, I know it's cheesy to think of the Goths being the ones to stand up for the heart and soul of AEW, but it's not cheesy if they just want to win belts.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But Malachi Black wants to do neither. He wants to corrupt you or whatever.
Malachi Black wants Buddy Matthews to do a job in a trios match, and that's what's going to happen. But no, I think that's like when that all happened on Collision, I thought, right, okay, I hadn't thought about the House of Black in the position to be baby faces trying to stop these arseholes from taking over the show. And if they just on the nonsense in the promos and the video packages and lean more into the aesthetic that, say, Brody King had against Darby Allin at Wrestle Dream.
I want that black metal face paint.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
I might get somewhere. Like, they're not bad baby faces to take on the Moxley lot.
I mean, they have got that. They're so good that I forget.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain matches they've had where I was like, you're the best group of badasses.
Surprise return for Julia Hart at some point. She can try and take out Marina Shafir.
Yeah.
Big sort of group moment. Like, the idea that AEW is a bit divided up. Orange Cassidy won't be a leader. House of Black don't need to worry about that. They're already unified.
It's just funny how we had some fun with this on Collision. We might even have some fun with it again. It's just funny when you have to go balls deep in this. You have to go ball foot in. Like, you can't just half tell a company takeover story. They've done it this year and it failed miserably. And it's just funny when if you've got this big sort of idea to just have it all over the narrative, and it kind of has to be, you just run into so many problems with the culture and what's become of AEW over the last 2 or 3 years. Where it's like, how's Malachi Black being the dude who, by proxy, is going to stand up for AEW? He just seems to turn up for work. You can't convince me that he really, really, really cares about it and is dialed in.
No. And
kind of has to talk about AEW in response to how Moxley does it. Mm-hmm. And it's just weird, isn't it? It's just weird. It
is weird.
I'll just let Malachi do what he wants. Doesn't seem to take many pinfalls.
Well, but the thing is, again, we did go into this in Collision. We did have a bit of fun with it. But, again, it's a bit vague with Moxley at the moment. He's a heel, so he can say that his goals are one thing, but really they're another, and they're selfish. That's all right. But at the moment, Moxley is angry with all the people that have been tossing their careers aside to party and dance around when they're not winning. Like, Malachi Black is a winner, pal. So that Jon Moxley, by rights...
And I don't think he likes to party.
I don't think he does. So by rights, he should be right up Jon Moxley's street.
Yes.
You kind of have to address that it cannot just be about winning, losing, and taking it seriously, because is there anybody that fits that brief more than Malachi Black?
Exactly, you know what I mean?
He's seriously the match out. So they have to...
I like the dench. I like the cut loose. I like the dench, I like the cut loose, just like everybody. He did specifically say to people dancing and partying, and the losers. You've struck upon something there again. So if you not only does he not really care about AEW, he's not, He's not getting it tattooed, and he's got about 500 other tattoos, which would tell you that AEW is about 501 on his list of priorities, right? There's been rumors that he was kind of want away at one point before it was like, no, I've got you locked down for 4 years or whatever. So just win some trios matches every 3 weeks or whatever. So not only...
Give me a shingles match. I got to make a point to some people on Twitter.
And no more after, subsequently. So not only does he not seem to care that much about AEW, which... doesn't really fit the Moxley thing. But as you mentioned, wins an awful lot. Almost spotless in terms of the falls he's taken.
His career's gone fine.
Yes. And, well, hang on. There's such a thing as like goth pop. But really, he's more of a mosher than a dancer. A musher.
The musher.
A musher.
I like the mush.
I like the mosh bit.
Jon Moxley.
There's so much about this that you can just... We are doing it through the lens of dickhead comedy.
But if they simplify it, 3 hard lads who are goodies now will stop the Blackpool Combat Club, will take the titles, and the match will rule.
Yeah.
I think that's all right. Yeah, I think
dicks.
like...
We're being dicks. Well,
they're squashing people tonight, and Jon Moxley's going to do a bit of a... Maybe, right? It's about personal issues. That's what draws money. That's what Jerry Jarrett told us, right? Maybe because... Try and thread this all together. Because Brody King was last seen beating the tar out of Darby Allin.
And then getting beat.
Aye. But Jon Moxley does a bit of a hair ruffler. I always quite liked you, Brody. Like, you kind of put Darby in his place. You're all right about me. And it's just like, don't patronise me, John, you little...
And then you get a personal issue out of it.
Personal issue.
Yeah.
And that's what draws the House of Black to the BCC. And Moxley's like, as a heel who can now show a bit of ass, John, like, he can run scared a bit, and because it's completely believable that he doesn't really want any Brody King. He's like, oh, I thought I could have my cake and eat it too, and that guy's going to stop me.
Yeah.
And you've got a match.
Yeah.
Like, the Blackpool Combat Club were hard lads. If anything, now the heels, they're allowed to be like geeks and run away every now and then. Like, it doesn't just have to be, oh, we have to sacrifice you because we need to look weak. Like, Pac can run off once in a while because the House of Black want to kick their ass.
I don't think they want to run off. I think they want to be really hard.
I know they do. Like, they're the baddies.
You know what I mean?
You have to show a bit of ass.
Well, it doesn't look like they're going to do it. Anyway, so that's one potential route for Moxley. Mm-hmm. Warning, he is here. Another thing is that he's currently
he is a bit
currently in the midst of Private Party and Daniel Garcia, who are in action against Jack Perry and the Young Bucks. Now, this match can get brought to a halt. There is a connection between the BCC and the Elite, and Daniel Garcia and Private Party was sort of tearing the hair out at the Elite, saying, if the EVPs, you won't stand up with them, we will. So there's a bit of narrative overlap there. So Will Mox is here, and no one's safe. Would he interfere or make his presence known in this match? And who's going to win? It's Private Party and Daniel Garcia, because they're going to gun for the respective titles held by the Elite, so they're going to win. Yes. And it's that Private Party, you've already beat them in a non-title match. This is how you're doing. This is how you're advancing.
Young bookers, because that's how they book their stories now.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous. This is how they got to the Wrestle Dream match. Yeah. And this is how they're going to get to the rematch. Why did Private Party have to geek themselves or be made to look like geeks in the script by saying, we haven't deserved it, but let's have a title shot? Why did they have to ask? That's silly booking. But anyway, they're probably going to beat the Bucks and Perry. Yeah. Wouldn't it be interesting if they didn't?
It would be, because like the kind of, you'd have to imagine the commentator something like, God, things had never been worse for AEW. Like, Jon Moxley is running amok, and our currently bravest guys have fallen short already, and the Elite won't do anything about it because they're running scared too. So there might be something there, but I think they win, because I do like the idea of Private Party actually seeing it through and winning the tag belts, and Daniel Garcia failing against Okada. Yes. You can tell those stories simultaneously.
Or Perry, because that's what the title is going for.
Yeah, of course, Jack Perry. So yeah, I think you can tell that story as a way to bring Garcia in ultimately.
Yeah.
To the
BCC.
Yeah.
And then he can then be with him for a while and then
just be
Moxley,
Red Death. And I can't decide which way I want this to go. Do I want the Elite to ultimately just be afraid of them, but willing to just let them do what they want because they don't want to get their heads kicked in? Or I think I'm leaning on them being kind of like, if we're keeping these the NWO, they're the Eric Bischoff. somebody's opening the door for Jon Moxley. You know, you said about the graphic.
Yeah.
He did the Battle of the Belts thing. He's like, we'll fight. We'll give Dark Order a chance right here, right now. Get yourself out here, get a ref out. And it happened.
Yeah.
Like,
that could just be wrestling.
It could just be wrestling, but how's Jon Moxley able to do these things? That little hair ruffle with Jack Perry wasn't for nothing, was it? And Moxley's thought
it was pointed out that he's evolved and won.
Yeah. So he's like...
And he's changed throughout his AEW tenure, and he's almost certainly not on the same spot.
And the very first day that Jon Moxley started talking in riddles and set this up in motion was, he said something to the effect of, like, things are going to change, Tony. And it was in the ring with Tony Schiavone, but you knew he was talking to Tony Khan.
Yeah.
Like, are they together
in
this? Is it like Elite tried a takeover, failed pathetically because they had the money, but not the physical power to get it done. So they have gotten to Jon Moxley and be like, we've got the money and the power, we've got the access, you can enact your violence the way you wish, and then we all get what we want. That could be why the heels have got a lot of the belts. I know the Takeshita thing is like not ideal, but
it is stupid.
There could be I quite like that.
I like that, and I really hope it's true, because otherwise you've got two concurrent heel stables whose MO is to restore the original vision of AEW. That would tell me that the original vision of AEW is in question. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's two of them who are like, that's a bit rubbish, this. It's stupid, man.
It's never good booking, but sometimes the ends justify the means. We just haven't seen any of the ends yet, and loads of the means.
Yeah. 3 more things to preview. Just checking my notes here very, very quickly. Just checking my notes. And
remember, like 20 years of WWE programming all the top baby faces to come out and say it sucks here.
Yeah, no.
We finally got away from that. Wrestling finally got away from
now, the big bold alternative is doing it twice on the same goddamn show. Sorry, you interrupted me there. I was just checking my notes there. And so you got... one women's match. Now, without Will Bourne here, it wouldn't be fair to play Ladies' Night, and I haven't prepared a song. So I'm not going to do it. Mm-hmm. But just for fun, I'm going to say 1 hour 18-19.
Yeah, it feels like that, doesn't it, on this kind of Dynamite? There's plenty of matches already announced. I'll go 125, just for the fun.
Flat?
125 flat, yeah.
Okay. It's Kamille versus Queen Aminata.
Don't hate this.
I don't hate it. It's a bit of it's like a powerhouse struggle. Mm-hmm. Who can be the biggest badass hoss in that women's division? It's going to be the final, I guess, is Statlander versus Kamille, which is actually advertised for Friday Night Dynamite.
Yep.
They're signposting, telegraphing the result a little bit here, and I don't like what they're doing with Aminata. She's the latest designated jobber, and she's probably way more talented than that. Mm-hmm. But we are where we are with that sort of device and that trope. Which again is there's so many people who exist to lose, and there's just a horde of losers for Jon Moxley to bury through the booking machinations of AEW at its core. That's a bad, bleak bit of a news item, but we are where we are. I'm into this match. It's got a bit of a minor spectacle feel to it.
Yeah.
A different tenor to that AEW match. I can't imagine this being every sort of hybrid moves with a Z back and forth. There should be some character stuff. There should be different identity to it.
Feels a bit alive, this. Like, it just feels new. Kamille wrestling start next week has me on the hook, because you can make, obviously, if it's it's AEW booking, Statlander wins because Statlander's going to get Mercedes money for the belt, because that's the fouad that's happening.
We are like 3 predictable results away from the inevitable destination
of Money beating Stat, which is also predictable. Predictable.
They're taking a lot of time in this, which makes me think it's not that predictable.
Okay.
It's not necessarily how good the creative is, it's how many steps they're taking to get to the match. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That makes me think, it's not just cut and dry, monthly pay-per-view cycle, Statlander beats 2 wrestlers, one on Rampage, one on Collision, and gets Mercedes money. That would make me think, oh, God, foregone conclusion, City Jones. Mm-hmm. The fact that they're taking all of these steps to get to Statlander, who's already beaten Willow. I reckon when that match comes around, depending if they shoot an angle with Mercedes and somebody else on the Dynamite beforehand, which I always want to do, I've got a little bit of doubt it could be the end of Mercedes' reign. Should fail upwards, but it could be the end of this one.
Well, I had a little bit of doubt in the match with Kamille until they booked this, because I thought, I can't have Kamille lose so soon. But in their minds, they'll be thinking, because she won this week.
Wardlow won his debut, lost his debut match.
Yeah.
And he was good for a couple of years after that.
Kamille is brand new, basically, match-wise, in AEW. Aminata is off the back of, and it's weird to speak like this, giving Mercedes Moné one of her better matches in AEW thus far.
Yeah.
And like well regarded, like a bit of a hipster's favourite and with good reason, Queen Aminata. So we'll probably lose here. And history says that's it now. Like you're in that vortex of rotating beatable women until your name is called for a random title shot cycle. But I don't know. This women's division just feels alive because I used to say this about WWE in that 2017, 2018, probably the peak for the main roster women's division.
And the lead up to Evolution and that. Yeah.
What the benefit?
Prominence, if not creative.
The benefit of just unacceptable historic negligence is that almost everyone is brand new and stand a chance. Like, it shouldn't have been that way. You should have had a set roster and we should be talking about pillars and killers in the same way. But almost everybody feels brand new and with a chance. You can have Becky Lynch just slap the out of Charlotte Flair and become a WrestleMania main eventer over the course of 6 months and still have her apologising to authority figures. You know, like, so much has never been done. And a Queen Aminata getting beat last week off Mercedes Moné, but having a great night in the process is brand new as a result, and will have a good night against a Kamille who is brand new because she's not been beaten down so much yet that she is nothing but a heater. Yeah. She is a heater that also might actually go when the bell rings. Like Wardlow's a great example of that because there was obviously a direction that was going to lead to that like babyface turn with the ring always kind of in play, even if it wasn't going to be with the Punk story. So that's what you've always got in this women's division. It just requires you to be a bit of a hopeless optimist. Your favourite talents aren't going to get sucked into the vortex. Yeah. Like, who was the one with, we were talking about Penelope Ford and Jamie Hayter, right? Jamie Hayter currently, how's this happened?
I know.
But because she's still so fresh off an injury, she's not losing, like maybe because of Penelope Ford, they're going to bring in Serena Deeb, and then it's like, well, I've never seen Jamie Hayter and Serena Deeb have a meaningful feud before. Yeah. It's new. It's nice. Yeah. Like you've just
wish there was more of it.
Yeah.
Genuinely wish there was more of it. But I've got a feeling Kamille's going to win this one.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Two more things to get through that has been announced thus far. Again, if you skipped ahead for whatever reason, we are recording this on Tuesday, so more things might get added. But the penultimate talking point, Hook confronts Taz's attacker. Who do we think it is? It's Hook. You think it's Hook?
I don't know, maybe. You think it's Christian Cage still, don't you?
Well, maybe it's a red herring. But I don't know. He did say hook, line, and sinker.
He did. I mean, when did this happen? Like 2 weeks ago?
Well, let's get our detective hats on here.
Okay.
Who could have a problem with Taz to want to beat him up and like really hurt his knees? Send him to the operating table.
It was very out of character that the Undisputed Kingdom Roddy Strong shook Hook's hand and they sort of accepted that loss and just walked away from it. And
they've been doing it subsequently. Just shaking hands left, right, and centre.
Wacky lads with the Beast Mortos is kind of in their crack of late, isn't it? So yeah. He's in 2 stables now.
Yeah.
Is that right? Because he's kind of, isn't he like sort of he was...
Yeah, I never know, man.
He's kicking around backstage.
He's in LFI.
Jake Roberts' LFI, but he was with the Undisputed King, Frank Mortos and all that.
Yeah, but now he's in LFI.
Right, so he's moved groups. So that would leave...
So is Roosh, who went from the Don Callis family, which he was definitely in, to the LFI.
So it can't be the Beast... I was going to say the Beast Mortos attacks Taz.
I've said for 2 friggin' years now, you can't just have this guy teaming with this guy. Eventually, this very little makes sense. And you just don't get a mid-card. But you can't have a mid-card because there's too many men's singles star wrestlers.
Why I think it could be a stable that isn't Christian plus whoever. Well, obviously, Killswitch isn't around. That's unforeseen. But, had they been more of a group, you could kind of buy it, couldn't you, at the stable. The Christians sent Killswitch and Nick Wayne to go and do a number on Taz. But maybe they've had to, rethink that a little bit now. Is because they see, and last night's Dynamite main event is grim evidence of this, they see something in this Kip Sabian is ruining Christian's day story. I mean... it's basically 2 main events because he was about to cash in on Bryan Danielson and then he was in the main event of Dynamite and both times, I mean, ignoring what actually happened, think about how that was supposed to go.
Yeah.
So, now Christian's got to deal with that.
How do you be the biggest weasel in a feud with Christian Cage? and that not be Christian Cage.
And you're supposed to be the baby face.
It's crap booking.
I
know they've had to pivot from what the plans were with Kill Switch, who's in our thoughts still.
And probably the cash-in.
Yeah, and the cash-in.
Because of the change in the direction of the belt, because of the Moxley
Guy's
stuff.
been pulled in every direction, but you don't put them in a bad one, which you kind of done because the Skip Sabian stuff stinks.
But that's why I think he was never the original idea for Taz.
So you think Roderick Strong is?
Possibly, or Hook.
What's his problem?
He lost to Hook.
So he kicked his dad?
Yeah. Because he lost to Hook, and that was when Hook retired the belt. And Roddy Strong's like, well, now how am I going to win a belt in this company? Basically.
He's already won?
I know, he can win a belt anytime he freaking wants, 100 of them. But
he's already won 100 belts.
I know.
He's the international champion.
He was. We discussed in the office, and I'd completely forgot that reign. But that was this year, wasn't it?
What?
That was this year he held that belt.
It was. I lost it to Will Ospreay.
Insane.
Will Ospreay at Double or Nothing. Was that the one?
Possibly. Maybe we're highlighting an issue with Will Ospreay matches that nobody likes to talk about. The Hook.
We're just dickheads, and it's 4
all
o'clock.
Often great.
People will remember like that. All the AEW fans will remember like that. So let's not be too dickheaded here.
If it's Hook taking out his dad, it's silly. But the idea could be, it's just never nice in the Taz family. And Taz, for the first time, reaches out to his kid after being very disciplined with, I'm a commentator, I'm not here to be Hook's dad.
Yeah.
Finally hugs him. He says, thanks for this, what you've done with this belt. I'll take it home. And Hook's like, well, you showed me emotion, you're weak. Time to put you in the hospital forever, Dad. Yeah. And it's like a Hook heel turn. If it's Roddy Strong in the Undisputed Kingdom, what I was getting to was because Hook, it's you, and they're like, yeah, we did it, and we do it again. Scream. And it's like, well, you can't.
There's another heel stable.
No, you can't scram. I'm going to get you. And they're going to be like, you and whose army? And then the Hook signal is going to go out, but it's not going to be Hook. It's going to be Samoa Joe, also a prior friend of Taz, TNA Law, and Joe's going to return. They had mutual respect off the world title match earlier this year.
They've formed a proto-conglomeration with Shibata, which is like the cool guys together.
Joe returns, and it's Joe and Hook in the Undisputed Kingdom.
All right, okay. Well, Christian Cage does have established motive because that was the first proper fouad he was in when he arrived in AEW. Christian
Taz
versus Team Taz, because he worked Powerhouse Hobbs early. They were talking about the bingo hall money. No, the other money.
Yeah.
But if not Christian Cage, then...
It's time to play the game! Time to play the game! Ha 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 ha!
Who's it gonna be? Who attacked Taz?
You got the AEW roster page?
Sure do, and I'm scrolling right now.
Oh my God.
Pro Evo rules?
Yeah,
Stick
please.
and twist. I'm sorry, Nicholas, we've got one more talking point after this.
Stop.
Pick a number between 1 and 15.
6.
Barrowman's Pro Evo rules.
Yeah.
You might, even though you have the luxury of twisting, you could stick with this.
Right.
Okay, because I'm going to show you on my screen now. 2 seconds. Just going to close a tab.
What was on that tab, Dad?
6.
Oh, Jesus. Chris Jericho, we're twisting.
We're twisting. We're twisting and we're scrolling.
Yeah. Stop.
Pick a number between 1 and 15.
Fower.
He's got a current dispute with Hangman Page.
Mm-hmm.
Hangman Page, as he would say, to Jay White.
I was the one that took out Tiz.
I don't like Tiz.
Tiz. I don't like Tiz.
Puts me in a Tiz.
Didn't bring a war machine. No, I'll twist. We'll go for 1. We're stuck with who this is going to be.
We're stuck?
Yeah.
And that's definitely going to be this person. I'm scrolling away, baby.
Yeah, and now we're stuck with whoever this is. So stop.
Pick a number between 1 and 15.
15.
Well. Yo. Listen. Listen. It's Max Caster of The Acclaimed.
Makes perfect sense because other than...
I think it does.
Let me explain, you see, Sidge. Because...
When did we start talking like this?
We lost the love of this product, mate. I think like that's what happened. Blame Tony Khan. Last week,
Yep.
I really, really liked, I know you highlighted that it was kind of wrestling, but Billy Gunn, mid-interview, I'm going to start the car.
I'm going to start the car before I ever get called losers by someone. I'm dirty ace.
MVP doesn't want dirty ace. He wants the Acclaimed. I don't think he's going to get the Acclaimed. I think he's going to split the Acclaimed. I think one of them is going to take that spot. And Max Caster being revealed here. I'm tying two things together when really I'm only interested in the first bit. Made a game out of it now. So Max Caster being revealed as the attacker of Taz is going to show MVP that he was right to be scouting them, and that maybe Max Caster's got some killer instincts. And then Bowens is, I don't want the card. Max Caster took the card, didn't he, last week? I think this is going to be a swerve, by the way. Let's talk about the Hurt Syndicate. It's actually entertaining.
Yes.
But like, MVP's on a recruitment drive.
Sure is.
Ahead of Bobby Lashley coming in, and so far so good. Like the idea of who could be in this stable with brand new focus and like a
Mercedes
bit of
money.
Yeah, like genuinely the Acclaimed as heels with a bit of direction, or at least one of them. Max Caster pocketed the card. I think they're going to appear as if Anthony Bowens is going to say, well, just take that for. Like, we don't need any of that. And then MVP's going to get to him, and it's going to be Bowens that joins the group as a heel by turning on Max Caster.
Yeah.
Because he's the one with all the potential, isn't he? But I think in the meantime, Max Caster revealing himself to be Taz's attacker, whilst mainly beneficial for our random generator game,
Yes.
could also be related to the fact that like MVP is looking for a couple of badasses. Not a daddy ass, but a badass.
I'm still content that Daddy Ass was like, well, time to dip because we're getting told we're not a hot act, really.
Yeah.
See you later. I'm not getting told that. I'll get the hell out of here, actually.
It might have been that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'd love it if that was true. We'll see. But if it plays out like that, I'm gonna tweet that out. Last talking points. Kyle Fletcher,
Yeah.
who we've just trivialized, is going to explain his actions and give you the reason why he turned on Will Ospreay. What's his reason?
Because he was
Didn't want to get little broed.
Yeah, little bro, sick of it. That's the latest thing that wrestlers are sick of. They've had something to eat finally.
Yeah, yes.
They've been starving for months. They've all eaten, but now they don't want to be little broed. And he's one of several wrestlers at the moment that don't like being little broed.
He doesn't want to be the next Will Ospreay. He wants to be the first Kyle Fletcher. I'll be astonished if that doesn't. Such complete dicks. I'm so.
That's brilliant. You should be a writer.
Well, beat you to it. So, buy this on Amazon. It's really good. I'm really.
Do you know what? Do you know what? That little thing you came up with, it definitely you said for the first time. That was passionate and insightful.
Yeah, and there's 120,000 more of those words, or whatever the whatever the meth calc and trigger is on there. I'm not into this Fletcher Ospreay stuff.
Will Ospreay, British guy, Kyle Fletcher, Aussie Open. They live at opposite sides of the world.
Well, it doesn't matter. Opposite ends in between. Amazon will deliver that book to your home.
Even you, AJ Styles, can get a copy, and you don't believe in the concept of the world.
Indeed.
No, it's like this is good stuff.
I like it.
Like
I like it. I'm just pretty tired.
Loved the first match.
You're awake nearly 12 hours at this point. Because I had to watch Raw.
Because you had to watch Raw.
That's my job.
It's my job, mate. This is your day. Let me tell you, right? Start at the peak. You're getting to watch Raw, and you're having to end talking about this. Like
Talk to the people.
a WrestleNomics attendance graph. Where's my camera? Right. This match was fantastic the last time.
It was really great.
Yeah, loved it. It was.
So those were those 5. How are you getting these 5 minutes? But it's awesome that you're getting them at the end.
The story's real. Like Fletcher has kind of liberally borrowed from Ospreay at every point in his sort of very, very accelerated growth from Aussie Open as a tag wrestler. Like, I know he was kind of already looking the part a bit more, but consider the fact that Aussie Open were on the Wembley undercard against Better Than You Baby, and now here he is as this ready-made single star that Don Callis could believably say, I've got you now, I don't need Will Ospreay. The story feels real enough and lived in enough that he's just going to do that, stepping out the shadow, and the next thing, I've taken the title from him, and now we're going to take your place, basically. I saw that you did it to Kenny Omega, so what's the problem? Well, this is what we do, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the nature of how the industry works and stuff like that. Well, your time just came up a little bit sooner than you thought it was going to.
Yeah.
And like, it's decent stuff. It has the potential to be great because I think the match will deliver as well. But it's what you would do.
Indeed. I am actually really excited about this. It's just a little bit late in the day. It's a little bit late in the day, but guess what? You know what never sleeps? X. You know what I'm chronically addicted to? X/Twitter, in spite of myself. And what you can do on that app is go to follow at WhatCulture WWE. You'll see a link to this podcast, underneath which we like to encourage some engagement and some responses and some chat. So if you want to do that, hop onto X and let us know what you thought about this preview, your thoughts on the show tonight, or just brackets AEW General. Whilst you're on X, you can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
You can follow me at M. Sidgwick. Thank you very much for joining us today on your feeds at the same time. If you lean towards WWE, we've got the Raw review and the NXT preview. We'll be back Thursday, tomorrow, whatever, with a review of this program. And hopefully it's a little bit better than the actual card on paper suggests. But we shall see, and we'd like to see you there at the exact same time. See you later.